This is my match footage for the West End Gun Club LESA Multigun match that was held December 17th, 2022. As with my last match, we had fairly high winds for the day, so many apologies for some of the audio. We start with stage 1, the shooter starts in the surrender position. On timer, the shooter loads and engages all steel as they see them. There are two boxes on either side of the stage. Some of the targets are painted, and those targets can only be engaged from either box on either side of the stage. You know stage is going to be good when there's a malfunction counter visible. Norma's slightly tougher primers, along with a weaker hammer spring on my 226, started causing some issues on this stage. Overall, my engagement could have been a lot easier. I started at the center of the stage instead of running to the left side to engage all the steel obscured by the barrel, before running to the right side of the stage to do the same. Starting in the center really did slow me down quite a bit. And here we have light primer strike number 2. Thankfully, I remember I have a double action handgun and I'm able to resolve that fairly quickly. I've also finally started making the habit of reloading before going to my next shooting positions, just so I can top off. Finally, from my last shooting position, I opt to shoot all the painted targets to save on time. Overall, with my very sloppy performance, I landed 16th out of 32 shooters, with 74.36% of the winner's score. Stage 2 was a fairly fun stage. As this is a Christmas match, we had to reference the best Christmas movie. I grabbed my strangely shaped MP5 from a nameless goon and struggled to get it loaded before taking on the rest of his friends. I started the engagement with my offset red dot before realizing it would have just been faster to engage with my LPVO. I had tried to force myself to use my offset more on this match, and I believe I will be taking it off going forward as it doesn't give me much of an advantage. Coming into the next shooting position, I struggle a bit as I have to shoot from behind the barricade. I have to lean in a bit awkwardly to get my hits in. I mess up my Hans impression as I fail to get the grenade in the right hole. On stage reset, someone forgot to set up the backup and I get audibly frustrated.
Ah, fuck! No second one, someone didn't reset!
From the fairly awkward shooting stance, my shots are a lot slower, but at least I do make all of my hits. And finally I go to dump my rifle and definitely draw my Beretta from my back. I may not have been the fastest, landing me 14th out of 32 shooters, but at least I took out Mr. Gruber without engaging the no-shoot, netting me 60.85% of the winner's score. Another stage and another malfunction counter. On stage 3, the shooter begins by engaging the leftmost steel array before making a 75-yard hit on steel. My malfunctions are starting to get to me, and I take more shots than I really should at the steel target. Once the shooter is finished with that steel array, they move to the next box and engage the steel array ahead of them by first engaging the close target, double tapping the middle, and proceeding until all the steel is eliminated, before engaging the long distance target once again. Another malfunction, that's me another few seconds, my slide block fails to engage. Again, thanks to my overall frustration, I miss more shots than I really should. Finally, we come to the rifle portion of the stage. The shooter must engage the rear steel with 2 hits each, alternating between targets on every hit. A cacophony of malfunctions occur on this stage, all related to gassing and underpowered ammo. There isn't enough force put back into the rifle to finish the cycle, and I end up dumping 2 of my magazines before getting to a magazine packed with ammo that works. A major mistake on my end. Finally, I get close to finishing off this array and moving on to the next. From the last box, the shooter engages the low probability target before engaging the steel array, before engaging the next paper target until the rear steel has been engaged 3 times. I didn't feel I properly engaged the paper target. Upon review I did, adding on more wasted time. And finally, to round out the shit show, I engaged the no-shoot instead of the actual target, netting me further penalties on the stage.
Did I hit?
This was a fairly bad stage for me. I landed 26th out of 32 shooters, with 53.06% of the winner's score. Overall, a majority of my issues were tied to me trying to go faster than I really should and getting flustered, along with the ammo issue I had with my rifle. Stage 4 is another interesting stage. The shooter starts by getting the bells from the forward bench, tapping on the rear bench, dropping the bells back off on the forward bench, and finally retrieving a magazine from a random bucket. I got lucky and started off with my rifle. The rifle portion was very simple. Engage the rear steel array 3 times. I have a number of misses that I'll be attributing to the canted red dot. As mentioned, it would have been a lot faster if I just engaged with my LPVO. I also have a brain fart and don't realize which targets I have already engaged. My squad mates weren't very helpful as hits were not being called, which I was very frustrated by once again. Once they were, the gallery behind me was calling obvious misses as hits. Knowing the next 2 boxes of handgun mags, I readied myself. The shooter has to retrieve their pistol from the dump bucket, engage the steel ray before emptying their pistol and dumping again. Surprisingly, I got through all the steel without much issue. Finally, I grabbed my last magazines, retrieved my handgun, and moved to the last shooting position. This should have been handled a lot better, but by this point, annoyances had stacked, and I just wanted to be over with the match. Another surprisingly good pistol engagement. I only had 2 misses on this portion. My best stage this match so far, 73.45% of the winner's score, which landed me 13th out of 32 shooters. Stage 5 of LESA usually starts with a barricade. In this case, the shooter engages the rear steel targets from each of the 3 ports in the barricade. Considering how tall my optic was, I opted to shoot by bracing the rifle against the top of the barricade window instead of the bottom ledge. As has become a staple, I bump a few more rounds in Stage 5. My transition to the second port was a lot sloppier than I would have liked. I'd never really done this sort of shooting, and doing it on the clock is usually a bad idea. Finally, with my last few rounds, I managed to eke out just enough hits so that I have 1 round left in the chamber before moving on to the next position. I conduct one of the sloppiest reloads you've ever seen. I reach for a magazine on my belt that doesn't exist. Realizing there is no mag, I go for a mag on my carrier. In the process, I end up dropping it, grab another magazine, and struggle to load that in. A 40-round magazine at capacity after a fumbled reload is no fun. As this is a Christmas match, there needs to be some Christmas cheer. Please bear with my horrible rendition of Jingle Bells. It's a mandatory part of the stage. The shooter from the last position sings Jingle Bells while engaging a Christmas tree of steel. The only caveat to this array is the last steel to fall must be the top of the tree. It seems that the joys of singing a goofy song while under time pressure has pushed me to do better, or possibly everyone else to do worse. I landed 11th out of 32 shooters, with 70.34% of the winner's score. Overall, I landed 17th out of 32 shooters, with 74.80% of the winner's score. This match wasn't my best, and I would have to say it was all mental. I had squatted up with a set of shooters I did not know, and was fairly annoyed through the match. While the stages were fun, the malfunctions I had experienced, and my overall sour mood got me to perform not as well as I should have. Regardless, if you enjoyed this sort of match footage, please subscribe. I try to put out a video every first Wednesday of the month.